I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Call order 7 o'clock. Yeah. That should pump that up. Okay. Roll call, everybody. Roll call, everybody's here. Everybody, I'll have a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
I'll make the motion.
And moving second, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay. Any public comment or questions related to non-agenda items? Sir, come on up.
Good evening. I spoke to you guys at the board meeting about well, kids not allowed to participate in their activities last month, January. Remember the letters we all. Going through the agenda, I did not see that as a topic of discussion.
As far as
Yeah, I didn't receive any phone calls or emails or anything regarding it. So.
okay. We don't. Jason, you want to handle? We don't actually.
You all you spoke last 2 months for public comment. Prior to that, you came in. That's the board placement. Get on the agenda. You have to
Even though I specifically asked for it, the board to address this.
Yeah, I thought you wanted to address the board about it, but yeah, that would not be an agenda item for now. Would not. It would probably come up when we do the handbooks, which it hasn't been done yet. Because what they're asking for is a change in policy or extracurricular or co-curricular. Right now, it's co-curricular because it's an extension of the classroom. Extracurricular are athletics. So, like we spoke about the Spanish club, we're going to have homeschool students taking the place of our students for that. And there's a lot of moving parts with this, and those all have to be flushed out in order for us to get to where you want us to be one co-curricular and not all. But if you have one, you gotta have them all. So it's not going to be something decided for one thing. You're asking for a policy change, and that would be a handbook that we do in June.
Yeah, correct. I am asking for policy. I'm not asking for one change. Identifying MCT as co-curricular. My letter outlined it fairly clear. Sorry, I did not know that I needed to talk with you separately in addition to coming here twice and asking that this is something that I feel should be addressed now and not necessarily wait until this summer again when there's handbook.
Well, sure. That's usually our or consider to
And that's in June.
we're not gonna we don't change those handbooks or policy outside of those months. So it's time to look at all the handbooks, review it and comment and consideration on changing that part of that portion of that policy.
Okay.
But just to be clear, just that to be on the board agenda, that we don't. I mean, we appreciate your email, we appreciate all comments, but in order to get on the agenda, everything has to be. He's the one that sets up the agenda, just so you know. So if you want it on there, have a conversation with. I mean, obviously, anything to address this more. We're gonna look into the handbooks of this. It needs to be talked with him more and gone over each item with him specifically, how you want it written.
I spelled out word for word.
I'm just saying how we have to address it on the agenda.
Okay.
Once it's on the agenda,
Or is it?
not setting the agenda up. So,
That's a little different. I get what you're saying, but that would be nice to communicate to me. Obviously, I put some effort into this.
right, and I
I
thought,
wasn't told that at all.
yeah, and I don't remember that coming up at all either, but that's the protocol. So that's why I'm telling you, moving forward, just so you know that, to be very clear, if you want an agenda item, you have to go through the superintendent. You can address us with emails all you want, but to get it on the agenda. I mean, if you have a thought or concern, you can email us, like, yeah, right? And I believe all of us got it. But in order to address it as an agenda item, it has to go through the superintendent.
Okay,
And then it comes to us. So that's the proper steps.
but you're saying, like, so even if I were on the agenda for next month, it wouldn't make a difference. Y'all are saying that because it's a handbook change, it won't be reviewed till
Well,
June.
our position or our procedure is we take recommendations from the superintendent or the staff here of policy changes. You know, and if there's a recommendation to look at that policy, we don't dig into it and start making changes. We wait for the staff and the superintendent to make those policy change recommendations and bring it to the board that the agenda item we vote on if we want to see the policy change.
And we have a few board members that do it.
Okay, so are you saying that basically convince the superintendent to make this change, and so he will deliver it?
No, what I'm telling you, get it on the agenda. We make the decision. You have to put it on the agenda for us. That's the proper.
And you didn't think it was obvious?
No, not now, not even remotely close. Because we're talking, but again, we're talking about not just one thing. You're talking about one thing. For to make a multiple change. So again, you would have to change Spanish club. Would you like your daughter's opportunity to go on the Spanish trip taken away by somebody from the homeschool?
That's not
Just-
what I'm saying.
It's exactly what you're saying. You want it to be considered for us to change co-curricular, extracurricular for the Missoula Children's.
No, it affects everything.
So what exactly what are you exactly?
Sorry,
I don't-
the way you're phrasing is really confusing. From my research into the handbook change, only in the elementary school, there was a phrase in there that was added last summer, if I'm not mistaken, that says co-curricular activities are not allowed for non-enrolled students are not allowed to participate in co-curricular activities. Something to that effect. So it does not give any examples of what co-curricular activities are. The only public notification that came through that was a Facebook post the night before NCT. So my understanding is there might be other activities out there that could be deemed co-curricular.
Right.
How do I know that?
So that's what we need to do. Now we're going to go through all of them and identify which are because it's come up in the last year. It's become we have to admit extra homeschool, extracurricular, not co-curricular, extracurricular. So we have to go through now and identify all of everything. What's co-curricular, what's extracurricular, and when a policy comes up in June, I have to have those in two lanes, K-12, so we know what is co-curricular and what is extracurricular, and what are we going to admit for extracurricular, and what are we going to admit for co-curricular K-12. And we'll have policy in both, in all handbooks.
Okay, I guess that's one way to somewhat get over what I'm asking for. I kind of get the feeling I'm not right now for this, which is disappointing. I feel like this isn't really a response to the community concern. Other boards that I've been involved with. This may be your protocol procedure, it's written anywhere, but if there's a concern, I feel like we should have
All I'm telling you is, if you want it on the board, and I'm pretty sure the first time he spoke, he said he's gonna talk to him. But he wasn't very clear that it had to go through him. I'm just telling you that. Just so you know, right?
Talked.
But this has to be a conversation that, like you said, you got to sit down and exactly say what you want, what's in the handbook.
I've done this. I gave you the letter.
I'm not talking about. I'm telling you, this has to go through the superintendent to get it on the board. That's all. That's all. I'm saying. For now and for future reference, if you want anything on the agenda, it doesn't matter. You can email us 6 times a day. We don't make the agenda.
But Tony's saying even if I get on the agenda, you're not going to do it.
No, we don't change policy. It doesn't mean we can't address the issue.
So the way to look at it is the policies that we've approved are set for this calendar school year. And so we keep those policies intact for that school year until we review all policies, make changes for the next upcoming school year. So when we look at the policy changes, that's what we consider, okay, next year, do we want to go further, or do we want to allow non-enrolled students to be partaking in this. That's when the policy changes.
So if I request the superintendent to be on the agenda, this issue that I for the superintendent for next month, what's going to happen?
We would take, I mean, we've already taken your comment and consider it in consideration. So when we start reviewing the policy, that's going to come up. If you're looking for an immediate action right now to vote on changing that policy either tonight or next month, that's usually outside the scope of how we operate procedure. Like I said, our policies, how to do that for every policy change or any community suggestion throughout the year, we're reviewing policy throughout the year. So we try to set a timeline and schedule. Say we're going to review policy changes from all the comments that we've heard, or any procedures that we need to change at this calendar. Is it our agenda, consent agenda? It spells out throughout the year what our steps are throughout each month, what we review, what we go over. It's a time frame of procedures. So we try to do them all at once and have them all reviewed for that. So there's set for the next school.
So in other words, if I run it down next month, it come before the board and you all try to say, this in June.
That would be my suggestion. That we'll end up one policy for one change. Again, doing that for every issue and concern and all the policies that we started doing that, reviewing policy year round constantly throughout the process. And so we try to keep on a time frame. Okay, here's the deadline. All set in stone reviewed for the next school year. Policy we're going to go through.
Okay. It seems a bit rigid. It seems like you could make some exceptions. Where do I find this? How you batch up all the policy changes?
That's where we said.
There's a lot of board agenda actually in July.
Okay.
I'm looking at the calendar. Right. It's on the board agenda, calendar, it's on every packet. And
So
it
if
spells
I
out
read-
every month.
So if I read the board, this
Be one better.
that would be good. This would explain how.
This would
I guess let me just say, I can batch all these issues that come up with handbooks and policies.
Well, you just, what they're saying is you can't change one part of the big picture. You're trying to change one piece of the big picture over the next year. And this is new. We haven't had this. We are not allowed homeschool or anything. Now laws change. They are now, not 2 years ago. Okay, so what you're talking about is now marking up some of the things that like co-curricular, are they unique to accept or not accept for our activities in our school? It's not just one. We're talking about a lot of extracurricular and co-curricular. What's accepted, what's not accepted, and it's not going to be each one. This is accepted. This isn't accepted. It's going to be co-curricular is accepted, extracurricular is accepted. And it's going to be yes. It's not going to be this, or that's going to be my recommendation. They may say no, I want this. Okay, this, that, or look at this. That's totally legit, but that has to be all put together. It's not going to happen in a month. We need to go through this and develop the policies and procedures so that I can put it what they can vote on for next year. So during that meeting in July, we'll do those policies and procedures. Then we'll have an opportunity to see what. And before that, I can show you as I did. I don't have it. We have to go through and look at all first. What are extensions of the classroom that we offer? There's a lot of things we do. And are we going to open that up for everybody and take spots for more kids for every one of those co-curriculars? What are we going? That's a big question. It's not just something I think. If you do it for one, you got to do it for others, and that's a big. That's a big.
It's hard this morning to figure out how to navigate this forward and see that my concerns are less.
So, just viable, and we all receive them. But like I said, don't do the handbook barring procedure. We're not going to jump into the handbook until July. We can address the issue. We're not going to jump in until July just because they haven't had a response. Doesn't mean that it's not on the list to be addressed. Right? I mean, we address everything that comes. But I'm just.
Well, it'd be nice to know. I'm sure I've been better.
Right.
Someone could have told me, hey, got your letter, but because of this reason, address it up there.
Well, I mean, I don't think the response to change the book right away. Anyway, I mean, I don't really know what. Right. I don't really know what to expect. Obviously, you should have reached out to you and said, yeah, we received it. It's under review, I guess. Like I said, we don't.
What you just told me, just like, hey, we don't address policy until July. Okay, we could probably have this conversation.
The first week. Yeah, but just to be clear, if you actually want to go through the superintendent plan, I mean everything that we go through here, if we make a list of everything we review them every year. Whatever's changed, whatever comes up, we as a board decide. That's not really the direction we want to go as a district. That's a great idea. I mean, just so you know, my apologies as the chairperson that you have responded on your email. Because I know, or I'm sure we all got it. The letter. I believe all. Yeah. So, other than that, I mean, I really don't have any answers other than we will look at it. It's a policy change. We will do it. I'm looking at the board right now. It's July for elementary school, high school, and middle school. All handbooks and activities will be addressed in July, not June. So,
Okay.
Any other agenda items? Okay, moving on. Consent agenda. Everybody has just a minute.
I'll make a motion to.
Awesome.
Moving seconded.
One question. The waste disposal at $13,000. Yeah, that I think so. So then that's they get weighed and then we're taken up by
Separate charge from the public services.
Yeah, and that's been running pretty much. It's been 10 years now. Yeah, they're in a place that community dumpster, is it?
No, it's
No.
not.
So
It does. The first time I was shocked. Cost to throw things away. But, it's been pretty consistent over all the years.
and there is a recycle.
There's not a competition either. Right? So we really don't want to stop. So, we recycle cardboard, trash is smashed back here, which is felt. But we don't have the open garbage cans that we used to do. We used to have just dumpsters and open cans. The bears have eliminated that. So one open container in the back, one locked lid, iron shop, and there's one compressor over here.
Mr. Sheldon?
Yeah, just to, I think we could, we said, but we have to work with the tribe right now for reasons that we have all the way. So we have to build this trailer out really quickly and work with the really big kids that have really heavy things, right? So if we could be recycling all of it in the building, we can't. We fill it before they can address it, so it's still paper and trash can. I've worked Lake County to get the big here. And we they don't want to put it in school because they think that it isn't we're not able to walk well enough at a public location like in the parking lot or whatever. Wanted to address that. That's something we have to do is we settle all the paper into our event. This things that we can't we get as much as we can, but we can't get all that because we just don't have the space or the ability to work. And I tried also really pretty well on that communicating, but it's just like and it's icy like we had twice the whole that for example. So just to give you the
Would they be open facility? I mean,
yeah, and I called last year, and they said I had one of the pages specifically for paper and cardboard, but they will not approve, at least as of last year, we have available. Like we would have to put it back somewhere here where right, something like that. And they said not look at them, they would get things on there that they would want. They want to put it like in the raw part, which they also like parking. So they're just the issue of, and that would right all our paper. So maybe they'd be able
okay. Any
One other just combined. It was like 2,400. Trying to get a handle.
What's that?
The new contract, the last year's contract.
I'd have to get back to you on that. So on my head, I can text you more. Let you know.
I just feel it with it.
Just pay for their own.
I'm all, I done.
Yeah, you're asking like how compared to.
Yeah, the increase in contract.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll let you know, when I look at that. School, high school, invoices and what, and, figure it out.
And one final one. On travel.
That's mileage for everywhere you went from. I can, he's got a log, it's all listed out, and I pay it out once. So if you would like, documentation on that, also easy to.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Can we move to all?
Okay.
Next. Moves on to presentation.
All right.
Meyer.
So I am going
Down arrow.
Down arrow. There. And the middle arrow. Did I get it? Okay, just buddy. All right, they can see.
Am I good to go?
Yeah, I'll give you a quick introduction. Andrew. Just a second. Chad. Andrew's from Baylor University. He's presenting on a project that he had written a grant for. And in discussion with us, between Stuart, myself, Tony, we decided that he should probably present it to the board. Let's also talk with, just give you an idea of what he's trying to do. So, everybody, board, just stand fire.
Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. Can you hear me all okay?
Yeah.
Okay. I'd also like to introduce the grants manager Miss Alexis Davis. And she reminded me a few minutes ago that she sat on the LICO board and being back in the school board environment was reminiscent for her. Yeah, so my name is Andy Meyer. I'm from Baylor University out of Waco, Texas. I'm an associate professor of sport foundation. And so what that means is my area of research and teaching and interest is in sport sociology. I'm a cultural sport sociologist, and I'm not going to get into all of the details of how mission and being introduced to Stuart and Adam and all the other folks that I met up there. But just like to say is I entered into a conversation with Stuart Brand at the end of the summer last year and started talking about an idea that I've been working on for about 5 years with sport, youth sport, and using digital technology in the form of GoPro cameras to collect stories and tell the stories of Indigenous kids who are playing sport and share those insights that they have. One of the things that I feel the literature is missing is the voice of young people and telling stories from his perspective. And so that is what I kind of propose to do. Adam mentioned that I have grant funding. What I have is funding for 3 trips to mission this year in 2024 to collect, to gather, to conduct focus groups with community members from St. Ignatius. But these would be the adults that I'm going to be talking to. And what I will do is from those 3 focus groups, I'll be devising a research protocol to then use in the GoPro part of this project. So as of right now, I have not been funded to do the actual GoPro study. That grant will be in June. And so I wanted to just say a couple of things about that. We'll be using the digital technology to get their perspectives, but the school district, Alexis and I have talked, the school district would actually be a sub-award recipient, meaning that you would have your own budget as part of this larger grant. The grant that I'm going for is $160,000, and we have talked with Adam and Stuart and actually Sean, the principal of the high school. The mission would have about a $30,000 budget out of that. I would purchase the GoPro cameras and mission, high school mission, ISD, I don't know what that's called, would ultimately receive all of the GoPro cameras at the end of the study to continue to be by all students, not just the basketball players, boys and girls, after the study is over. At the end of the project, I hope that there's a video or some sort of cultural product that is produced. And when I was up in January, I spoke to Stuart and Sean and Adam utilizing in the high school or in middle school if they want to. They might have an interest in doing some of that video production, taking the stories and taking the interviews and creating some sort of video. But again, it's not from my voices, it's from young people's voices. And so I think that's kind of my little spiel. I didn't want to take up too much time tonight. And so I'd be open to any questions right now if that's appropriate at this part of the agenda. But I'm also still open, I know I don't have any more than happy to respond.
So, Andrew, are you, what kind of timeframe, how much information are you actually trying to achieve? Or what's the goal you're trying to get? As far as information?
So yes, part of this year, I'm coming up 3 times this year. I'm taking what's called a grounded theory approach, and because there's really not a lot of data that has been collected in this manner and this way amongst this population, I'm going to use the inputs that I interviewed this year to generate those kind of themes that I'll then help you ask the kids. And it would be prompted to answer questions over a period of time. It would be 2025 and 2026. And it's called a protocol. We put a research protocol in place where we would be collecting, usually during the basketball seasons from the boys and girls. And after each sort of season or time frame, we can collect those. So I'll be up there in 2024 to talk to adults. I'll be there in 2 weeks. I'll be there in August, and I'll be there in December of this year. And then if the grant is funded, I would start in 2025. And let me say one other thing. I have not done this project in isolation. I've been working with Stuart Grant and Adam in kind of developing ideas and making sure that what is going to eventually happen is appropriate, is okay for your community, is okay to be passed by the school board. I'll be sharing all the documents with Adam and Stuart, and if they want to share them with the school board, you guys have full access to read them and make sure that everything was on the up and up and open and available, so there were no surprises.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Hey, Andrew, Tony. Looking at your proposal, there's a couple in your talk here. There's a couple things that I want to get on board with. This concept of, I don't know if you want to do res ball, call it res ball, or not. That's one term. I mean that I'm not sure that what you kind of talked about trying to build, if that's the true good concept of what you're leaning towards. That makes any sense. I'm trying not. I don't know.
Are you worried about the connotation of the word res ball?
Yeah.
Like how it would be perceived with some of the community members or our board and others?
Yeah.
Okay,
Or
okay.
and it's or the other part, of focusing on indigenous kids or indigenous players, but rather all the kids, all the players, indigenous community, sure, but it's not necessarily indigenous. So that plays a big role in what sports that's here for this community. It doesn't just focus on indigenous kids. It actually brings together more than indigenous kids and other non-indigenous community members together.
Yeah, Tony, thank you so much for those questions. I had worried or questioned whether or not the proper term would be to use the word res ball, as it's high school basketball. So I can certainly make sure that term doesn't have to be the term that is used for this. And then we also do some research just on your community, knowing how many different tribes are represented, and kids from non-tribes, right? Non-tribal histories. And it actually sounds like maybe there might be some homeschool kids in the future, right? That could potentially be playing on this team. So I certainly would be conscious of that and making sure that it's not just about Indigenous athletes, but it's also about how basketball brings the community together, given all of the diversity that actually does exist in that area, which is, I think it's a cool thing as part of the project to have that diversity.
Yeah, I think it's good to showcase this reservation is definitely different than other reservations in that aspect.
Yeah.
Thanks, Tony.
No, I think, yeah.
I just want to make the comment. I wish this would have got going maybe 5 or 10 years ago. When Bearhead and Joe McConnell were still able to be part of this. They lost a couple, and I had many or listened to him talk to my dad about basketball. It was a wealth of knowledge and history that was rich. So, and there's others that will be able to fill in some, but
As far as the time goes, Andrew, how did you start this as a cross project pre-pandemic? So how long has this been in the works for you?
I think I started to have an idea about this in 2019. I went to a conference with colleagues, and I think I brought the idea to that conference. So in March of 2019 is when I started to formulate it. I submitted a grant in 2021 using the sort of same protocol, but with stickball in Oklahoma, Texas, and North Carolina. And we got great feedback from the granting agency, the funding agency, and it was not funded. And then a friend of mine out in Seattle sent me a book that kind of turned my focus maybe more towards baseball. And the way that I came to St. Ignatius was Stuart Grant's cousin, I believe, or uncle, is Vernon Grant, and he was brought down to Vegas in 2019, who was a colleague of his at Montana State University. And so it's been very interesting how I even got to this community, and every time I come to visit, I just keep feeling like this is a place for this to happen, this project.
I think you'll be able to maybe the yearbook. Is there a yearbook from every
Yeah.
year somewhere? You can see pictures of the old gym with the single row fold up chairs against the wall with all the seniors sitting.
I got to see that. Cool.
No.
Anybody else? All right, so this is an action item. So I'm sure it's happy, but up to the board of what you're trying to accomplish. I think you did that. So with that, if you got anything else or anything to add, real quick, one more before
Muscular Christianity. I just wrap my around that subject, and if that's just in the past now, that won't be. Is that?
Oh, this project, no. Yeah. That is not thank you for looking at that. This is not a muscular Christian research project. That's my history, and so for the past 15 years or so, I've been working at understanding what are the norms and values and the cultural sort of approaches in Western sport, right? And the other thing that I think basketball really offers is that it was a westernized sport that was also brought across the country and introduced in many of the residential schools. And so that is rich history of that. But the muscular Christianity will not necessarily will not be project. That's not what we focused on here. Right. We're trying to do that. But if the board is okay with moving forward on this, and then and I can work with Adam on that as well.
Okay. Looks like that you've got not approval over here as far as what you presented today. So if anything else you want to wrap up, feel free.
I just want to thank everybody for the time tonight. Hope I didn't go too long. And I'll be up at St. Lucius in 2 weeks, March 2nd to the 6th. And so maybe I'll see you around town. But thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andrew.
Good night.
Good night, guys.
So that wraps up presentations. We'll move on to board preparation. Board agenda.
It's there.
Any updates?
I closed it.
We're still live on YouTube channel.
Yes.
Okay.
District goals, updates.
Updates are there.
Any questions on the board preparation? Okay, we'll move on to new business,
Okay.
10.01 permissive levy resolution.
So this is the House Bill, I can't even remember anymore. Is it 207? Do you guys remember if that's the number? 307? Sound familiar? We have to give this resolution of intent to impose increased levies to local publication every March. I think last year we ran into some questions regarding what we publish versus what we do in August. This is ultimately a guideline of what we possibly could be asking for come August so that there's not any surprises. Last year we had a transportation negotiation following this intent to levy. So really it was not the school's best interest to just have a holding number there, as Jeff Smith or whoever, Smith Transportation or whoever would have been negotiating could have used that as leverage. So we left that out, just politically. But these numbers that I present really aren't anything that are in excess. They're basically just what is in play based on the 5-year transportation contract, the out of district tuition, which is coming up, and the other change will be the building reserve. So if you'll click on that, Jason. These are permissive, as we went over in our budget hearing last year. A big chunk of that increase came from the increase in your taxable values, but also in the 77 mills versus the 93 mills that the state and the counties were fighting over. That you basically don't get a choice, and that's just taking in added to the general fund as part of the funding. So next year, my projection to hit between 15 and 18% of our reserves will be $642,000 for the transportation budget. That'll be an increase of around $72,700 or 13 mills. The reason why it looks a bit higher is because this year we had 31,000 in, let's see here, unreserved fund balance. So we're kind of making up for what we didn't hit this year, next year. The way that works is we didn't ask for any more on top of what was extra last year. We basically tried to zero out our transportation budget to have the least amount of effect on taxpayers as possible. If we wanted to continue rolling with that amount of excess, we would have asked for that much also. I believe that in doing so, we're going to come close to zero in our unreserved fund balance reappropriated moving forward. And so our number 642 is going to be pretty close to achieving that. It increases 13 mills, which is an increase of $18 on a $100,000 home and $36 on a $200,000 home. That is for the year. That is not per month. So divide those by 12, and that's how much that number is increasing the taxes per month if you have escrow or you're paying your taxes in that way. Tuition, last year we had a holding place of $50,000 without knowing what the tuition, or an extra $50,000 without knowing what the tuition process was going to be. We then find out that it's not going into play until next fiscal year. So we will have better numbers based on what our out of district students are. We're already putting those lists together. And we also got some clearance on what the legislation, what amount they're going to charge each student. So we can't see it costing us any more than $25,000 extra out of tuition. So that would be an increase of $22,434 over what you asked for last year, which was right around $103,000. Increase of 4.5 mils, $6.16 per $100,000 home, or $12.32 for $200,000 home. Again, this is new legislation. It's not something that we've ever had to deal with before, but the voters or whoever decided to pass this has passed on some of the transfer of students to local taxpayers. So this is a new game. And then building reserve, you'll see an increase of 31,520, but you'll see 0 mills increase and 0 increase to your taxes. That's because right now, currently, we're allowed to take up to 20 mills out as a max for our school district. In doing so, then the state will match with our SMMA funds. So that 20 mills usually comes down to, last year it cost the district 5 mills with whatever the state match was. The reason the increase is so big is because our taxable valuation went up from 3.9 million to 5.6 million. So our mills went up accordingly, meaning that 20 mills equals now a higher amount. I put that in there, not knowing exactly what we're going to ask for in August, but that would be the max. Once we start messing around with what the state will match, we will present that to the board accordingly. So those are just kind of the intents of what we would be looking at possibly in August. It's not our budget. You will set our budget in August.
One quick question on that. On the tuition you mentioned out of district students, won't that be a two-way street?
Yes, it will be a two-way street.
Is that going to be like a yearly thing, or you got to figure it out every month?
Annual. Yeah, there's gonna be 2 payments at
school
the end of
year.
the year. You'll figure out how many we're in, out, percentage of. It's gonna be a pain, but you pay at the end of the year. So at the end of next year, we'll pay for all the kids that went out, and we'll get money from all the students that came in. And there'll be 2 deadlines. We'll probably do it over the summer, and then again the following summer. But yeah, it's a whole lot of money in and out. Even money for us, more than likely, because we all locally have so many students that are in and out, and it really is nothing more than a tax on property owners, and it's not beneficial to us. It doesn't hurt us. It doesn't help us. It's truly though money in and money out.
And the reason
And
why
additional tax money.
it hits the taxpayers is because the timing of it isn't going to match up with when we have to.
We were really
ask for the
raising
money.
We were really raising a fit when it was 30-40% of tuition, and for us, it's only going to be 3%. So it's not the fight that I originally started, with letters to the newspaper and explaining that this truly is one of the more ridiculous property tax.
So with these numbers, are we expecting then to pay more than we get back, or?
Jason seems to think in his tracking of it that we'll probably be break even. But the timing of it is we're gonna have to bill and pay before we get money back. So this first year at least, we're gonna probably need to have some money in the hopper, and then I think everybody will get an idea of how it's going to flow through and whether or not those numbers will continue.
And 100,000 of that 125,000 is special ed.
Special ed, which has multiple layers of approval that goes through state approval before we bring it to you.
Can you run through the increase, decrease columns?
Yeah, sure.
It's the tuition numbers on the far right shows a decrease. Is that saying?
Oh, that shows a decrease of me not making that correct, and we will make that correct before it goes to the newspaper, Tony. Thank you very much. That is not a decrease. It is an increase in tax and what it'll cost to
the
taxes.
transportation, the
Yep.
last column both
Yep.
confused me then. All right.
Yes, Tony, thank you for pointing that out, and we will make that
I didn't know if you're referring to that's a decrease
No.
of what the mills were last. 3
No, it's not because of the 5-year. We will see increases over the next couple of years. It's just going to be management when I present it to you in August of how many mills that's going to end up being. And so last year when we presented it to you, it ended up being, after all was said and done, only a 3 mil increase. And I think I saw members of the board and community that were happy about that. But coming up this year, we're going to have to see how that plays out. I expected about 12 mills. Last year it was 3. This year, to make up for it, it looks like it's closer to 13, but when you take the 2 years together, we're still under what the initial amount was, just based on management of that unreserved portion of the bill. So that's kind of the shell game that we played last year.
So the big increase is transportation.
The biggest increase is transportation, and that is correct.
And is it a true statement that says permissive levy on transportation cannot be used for activity?
That is
Buses.
correct. We pay activities out of impact aid.
So 100% of all the routes is the 412. Is that what I'm seeing?
So on last year's property tax increase was 412, yes. You can also add the 31,428 of unreserved. That would be closer to what the proper tax bill was, 445, around that.
Is there, probably without looking it up, you don't know how much is spent on activity transportation versus route transportation?
I'd have to look it up, but it's probably under 20%. I mean, if as far as buses and travel, I want to say it's probably under 100,000, maybe $100,000 under.
In past years, has impact aid ever helped with routes?
No,
Any other districts? Does that occur?
I would say no.
Probably, yeah, I guess those districts
because
that
they
have
can
contracted
permissive levy.
ones don't have impact aid. Right?
Correct. Yes, we are fortunate in having impact aid, but if transportation were to come from anywhere else, it would come from a levy, which would be voted on, which would never happen because they can permissive levy it. So the school boards would just do what our current practice is, which is ask for that money. Same thing with bus depreciation. You would be able to do the same thing without a vote from the community, that is. Vote from the school board, yes. Vote from the community would not require it.
So it would throw a wrench in the process if the board said, no, we're not going to approve enough to cover the,
We would have to cover the rest of it.
The routes out of impact aid.
Well, or we would be in breach of contract.
Yeah.
That's where my concern would come if the board did act in that way, is that we'd be in breach of contract and we'd have a whole bigger issue than covering that amount.
Yeah. Does the state, is it complicated as far as how much money comes for transportation from the state?
So if you look in that, on that
County.
fiscal year 24, the state amount is the number right between the two highlighted, the 129, 912,000. That's the state.
That ever
portion.
change much?
That's on schedule. It really doesn't. It's based on your routes and the size of the buses. So in the past, our transportation contractors have increased the size of their buses because it increases the amount that we get from the state. We are maxed out. Jeff continued the same practice that Scott had, which was max out at the 82 passenger buses for the most part. And so you get maximum refunding back from the state.
So Smith will get the total amount from the state and from
We
the
get that,
permissive levy.
we get that amount.
Oh, and
And
that,
that comes to us. And then that comes to us along with the amount that we ask the taxpayers. And then all Jeff Smith does is give us a bill.
and it
and
takes those
we-
two funds to cover it.
We pay, but it takes those two funds to cover it. And that's all in our control on our end. But the negotiation is on Jeff's end, and then he gives us the bill, and then we have to ask to cover that.
Yeah, nothing, counties just kind of supervises the.
County just kind of, county mainly supervises what the on-schedule amount is and whether or not we're maximizing that. Otherwise, the rest of it passes in August, and that's the last time they really look at it.
So question, the recommendation action is to advertise this, not to approve or?
Yeah, it's approval of the intent.
Okay.
Of the intent to increase, and that's the key word here, is that we're telling the community what we intend to increase, and I think it came up last year, like I said, as far as were we 100% clear on what we intended last year, and the answer was no, because we didn't have all the information last year based on the transportation contract. But this, as far to my knowledge, is as transparent as we can be this year.
Still kind of in the air because we don't know how the tuition is going to roll out
Correct.
until next year.
Correct. This is projecting 6 months in advance.
How much can you carry over in the tuition fund?
Tuition fund does not have a reserve amount. So anything carried over becomes unreserved balance reappropriated. So if I don't spend that $105,000, then the next year the tax levy amount is zero. So if say we took that $125,000 and I spend zero of it, but we asked for 125 next year, we would not be hitting the taxpayers for any mills because we'd already have that 125 basically appropriated in the bank. If we took 125 and we spent 100 of it, we asked for 125 again next year, we would start with 25,000 being reappropriated in that one.
Which will more than likely happen.
Which if you choose to do 125 in August. Last year, we said we aimed for 150 and then we only took out 100 because we were ahead of ourselves in what we needed, what the requirements were. So in that way, the intent was less than the taxation, or the taxation was less than the intent was ran for. Any other questions? Yes, Mr. Marchand.
Is this telling me maintenance projects that might be completed under building reserve funds would assist?
In 2008, is at the bottom. So yes, the original built, how long ago was it? 2008, 2009? So that's before I started. They came through and they did an assessment on all buildings in the state. And then they were trying to build a fund to approve those things. And every legislation that kept getting kicked down, sometimes it would go to what's the grant that we would get, and then it wouldn't get funded, the grant that we got for the outside of the building.
The intercap loan?
No, there was remember before we took the intercap loan out, we were first in line for the state grant. So they would basically make this pot of money, they would take it away. They'd make this pot of money, they'd take it away, and then they ended up saying that you could ask your local taxpayers for that money based on those 2008 facility assessment needs. So that's kind of what's happened in the building reserve. And it's part of why we have been able, and other schools have been able to justify paying the intercap loan with the building reserve, because the intercap loan addressed what was on the 2008 facility assessment of needs.
We were number 3 in the state that year.
Yeah.
For needs.
But yeah, ultimately that's how that's played out, is that they kept setting aside money and then they decided, you know what, ask your local taxpayers for it. And it is 16 years old. And by now a lot of stuff has been either addressed, or a lot of schools haven't been able to address it because they can only take out 20 mills a year. So for us, the intercap loan addressed a majority of those issues, and then we've used that to justify paying the intercap loan because it was used to address the 2008 facility assessment needs. There's some history. Any other questions?
Anybody else for a motion?
I'll make the motion to approve the following bills of levies for the 24-25 school year: transportation, tuition, adult education, building reserve.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion?
Do we want to worded as intent?
Is it not as the intent permissive
No.
levy resolution? Please do.
Okay.
Because we are not passing our
Yeah,
current
exactly.
permissive levies. It is an intent.
Make the motion to approve the following intent or permissive levies intent for the 2024-25 school year.
Thank you.
Transportation, tuition, adult education, building.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Do we have to do anything else with that language change?
It's gonna go to the newspapers as this exactly. I'll cut and paste it and I will send it to the county and they'll run it, all of them together at the same time so that they'll be noticeable. They will be kind of in a bundle instead of just one off and hidden for transparency purposes.
Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion?
Yeah.
Any opposed?
Okay.
Okay, moves us on to 10.02, 2024 Salish
Yeah,
Conference.
this was supposed to be out of district travel on approval of, and it was just dropped in here as just.
Information.
So, yes, sorry. Let me add, we need to approve out-of-state travel for the 2024 Salish Conference to Washington and the trip. Which I also don't see any, okay, hang on, here's the information. Okay, so here's the information. March 6th, 7th, and 8th, and there'll be 6 students and 1 chaperone going to, I think it's a Quest, right? So, yes, so it'll be, majority of this will be paid through a grant, and I think we have meals. So very low cost, but we do need to approve the out-of-state travel if they do intend to go, so.
Just to cover the meals, right? Yeah. Just, the tuition or the lodging and registration's covered.
So make the motion to approve out-of-state travel to Washington for the 2024 Salish Conference.
I'll say.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? Questions? All those in favor? Okay, 10.03 on-campus daycare.
So we'd like to convert the current
Just let them go.
art room, converting the current art room to a daycare facility that we could, we would basically be the tenants of, but it would be run by a third-party entity, so we wouldn't have any financial commitment to other than the building. And in turn, the idea is that we would hopefully be able to offer our teachers and staff substitutes, etc., to increase the potential for additional staff members, that if we could offer daycare at a reduced rate. So having the facility for free, in turn, a reduced rate for teacher, staff, subs, etc.
Yes. So Rosina brought this idea to me earlier this fall, and she was like, what do you think about having an on-campus daycare? And I said, that would be sweet, because you don't know how many times a day I'm covering my teachers because their daycares fell through, and including myself. When my daycare's closed, I have to miss days of work as well. So the bottom line is we would like to be able to offer a facility for daycare for our staff. We recognize the importance of work-life balance, and a local daycare will support our employees managing their family responsibilities, and also offering a daycare facility will help attract and retain top talent. One of the questions I get when I interview teachers is, what are your options for daycare? And I can only give them Head Start and just a couple more options. We surveyed our staff, and 42% of our staff in this district said they would use a daycare facility if we had one close to here or on site.
Sorry, not to interrupt.
It's okay.
So 42%, what's that number? I mean, how many kids?
Oh, just 42%, sorry, of our staff members, like in the district. We took a survey and they said they would use that daycare facility. So how many kids
So how
would
many,
that be
yeah, how many
for our staff?
kids are we thinking that
Yeah.
would be, and how, if that space is big enough for all those kids? How many staff members do we have? I don't know.
Sorry, I'm counting them all up my building.
Well, 46 teachers.
46 teachers plus 25 plus.
It was 11 teachers total.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was 11 teachers total. I don't know how many kids that was, but it was 11.
So 11 said they had. a need.
11 said that they'd have 6 were full-time and the remainder they would use it as a drop-off.
Yes. So what we are requesting permission to move forward with is the following idea. We leased the space out that was formerly used as the Boys and Girls Club, so the old art room, as a licensed daycare center. We would offer it to an owner or director who will operate the licensed daycare out of that space as an independent contractor. It's their business. In lieu of rent, the provider would offer daycare to St. Ignatius staff at a reduced monthly or daily rate or whatever, just a discounted rate for our staff. It would be a 12-month year-round facility. The owner and operator would be responsible for food, supplies, daycare, furniture, all those things. And then the school district would just be responsible for the maintenance or repairs of the building that are already figured into what we do to maintain the building.
Not the janitorial cleaning every night, that falls on the owner operator. But just like if something breaks or along those items of a broken window or whatever, we would maintain that. We kind of thought about mirroring the interlocal agreement that we have with the library, something along those lines. But they would have to carry their work comp, their unemployment, and pay for their own employees. There's not going to be an additional cost to the school as far as hiring anybody. They're in charge of all that. It's their business. We're just going to trade them space.
Basically, we are the landlord, and instead of charging rent, we are signing an agreement with them that they will offer our staff a discounted rate and a spot.
Yeah, so that they would have other kids there that weren't
Exactly.
It would be their daycare
their
facility
own daycare.
to in turn serve the community and bring a business to St. Ignatius.
And we kind of thought about the idea of, as our enrollment kind of continues to decline, hopefully having somebody there kind of like feeding into our next step, which would be the kindergarten, can build up that population at a younger age.
So who would be in charge of choosing the owner operator? If say there's 4 or 5 people interested, who makes that decision?
I guess we'd have to come up with a committee to decide. Right now, we had a couple ideas, but we didn't really want to move forward much further until we had like your guys' support.
We would bring it to the board, just
Yeah.
like we would
Yes.
So would it go
Boys
through
and
like
Girls
the
Club
interview?
or
Would it be more than
Like,
just
is it an interview or is it a bid? Like, what, I guess is.
I don't want it to be like a bid. I really feel like it's somebody that we have to really support and believe in, that's going to run a very responsible, respectable business, somebody who maybe already has experience doing it. Somebody who, they have to be licensed with the state. Somebody already knows all of the ins and outs of doing it.
So you could put out a RFP, request for proposal for people, not necessarily bid, but.
Yes.
people
A request for a
provide
proposal, yeah, we don't want to take the lowest, we want a
No.
really good candidate in there, you know?
Somebody who wants to run a daycare, run a business, and we
A
are offering
successful
them.
spot,
I did daycare directing before I came to work for this school district. 85% of the battle is finding a space that is usable and approved by the state. So they have it here.
So I know there's, I'm sorry.
No, I just made a question in the back when you were.
I know there's guidelines for daycares on how many kids you can have per size of space and per size of facilities or bathrooms and whatnot. So have we done an evaluation of that and known how many kids we can take there yet, or?
So I think if we were to move with the next step, we would put out I'm sorry, what did you call it? Not a bid.
RFP,
An
request for
RFP.
proposal.
And we could have them look at the space, and then they would need to delve into the state requirements, because there's group home, there's licensed center, there's just the one below that where you just basically watch 4 kids in your home. But probably what this provider would look at is either group home, which is up to 15 kids, or a licensed facility in a center, which is like infants from the age of 5 years old, and then they actually have to hire other employees as well.
And
So-
then have we looked at what kind of retrofitting we'll need to do to make that an actual daycare safe space? Or would that be the
Not-
That's part of the next step.
That's part of the next
Yep.
step. Mhm.
Yep, I talked a little bit with Steve about it today, and he was like, well, it's gonna need carpeting and windows and something to do with like the entrance, kind of frost heaves up. So he's worried about that space and what that would look like. So we would still have to, it doesn't come at no cost, obviously, but I think the benefit of at this point, we have such a hard time attracting people when it comes time to hiring. There's no affordable housing. There's no daycare. So, and a family driving from Missoula is already spending, what's their numbers?
600 on fuel plus my daycare bill just using me is $800 a month. And I know the state just increased their best beginnings rate, which is the scholarship that they provide to people. So now providers are going to have to raise their rate in order to get those state benefits to about $1,000 a month. And so I'm spending $1,600 a month right there just to work at
Just to get to work. Yeah, it's a lot. And it's no wonder we lose people to, any sort of opening in Missoula. So we're just hoping to offer something. It's not a benefit of any sort, but just, a relief.
I mean, I like the idea, I like the concept, I just asking questions to make sure we're
Absolutely, yeah.
not jumping in there.
Absolutely.
I think what I would like is a guide, like a little bit of a guideline of how much we can feasibly spend on it before we even move forward with it. Have somebody to go look at the space and get good ideas of what it's gonna cost. And then continue on with our timeline, which was hopefully get an idea of what it's gonna cost and then implement it so that we have that space up and going by August.
The TKO kids, what hours do they go to school? Is that a full day TKO? So do you anticipate maybe some of those parents at the end of the day rather than sending that younger one on the bus or whatnot, they could, and if they can't get there to pick them up?
I honestly think
Use
that
that-
would be a parent decision, not a school decision, whether they
Yeah.
wanna run that from 6 a.m. to 7 p.m., that's up to them,
Right, yeah. And then they could use that.
Boys and Girls Club, they don't take kindergartners.
They
So
don't, they,
Oh, yeah.
TKO and
Yeah.
kindergartners
Yeah.
could utilize
Yeah.
possibly the
Yeah.
daycare, because
They would
Boys
have
and
to
Girls
figure that
Club
out.
won't take them
Yeah.
until they get a little older.
there's different pricing models the provider could use. They could use hourly, they could use daily, they could use monthly, they could use all three. So if, like on Fridays, for example, I know a lot of my parents struggle with their little kids. And so if they wanted to take them to daycare until they got off work, they could charge them an hourly rate.
Ms. Shellman had a question for you.
Yeah, just, I love this idea. Fabulous would have used it as younger kids.
3 times.
We have spent significant money to put my kiln in the room that is adjacent to that. Because we had to rewire and move wiring, and that was the only place that we found in our facility that the kiln could be, that I could walk students out and use that side door. I don't think that in any way makes it impossible. I think that they have to, when inspected, recognize that there is a kiln in that room that is adjacent, and there would need to be put a lock on the side that is the former Boys and Girls Club, former art room. It does not have, I can't lock it from the side so that kids can't come in. So I always had to be in communication with Boys and Girls Club when they were out there, if I was turning it on. Not to have kids in there. They should, like, my students never, ever are allowed to enter the main, that other door that we only use, but I have students have to help load because we can't run a cart across without breaking all the pieces. So I do have high schoolers in and out of that door. So this is just something to consider because it is a big oven that gets to 2,000 degrees. And I run it generally in the afternoons at night, but it takes a long time to cool down. So it's a very hot oven right there.
Okay. It's good to know.
I think it's a great idea because I remember back when we had little ones, our daycare was 1 block away from school, and it's always a pain getting the kids ready. And then if you had to go this direction, then come back this direction, if you can just get there and be there. And I think it's great.
I think more than anything, we just want to see if there's somebody out there that'd be willing to do it.
And it's hard to go out there looking if we don't even have, can we do it?
Yeah.
So have the support before we do it. Steve, honestly, he threw a number of 20,000 at me today of like, that's what he thought it would take, but that was just his, off the cuff idea. So who knows what it would really cost to get that room actually or daycare ready.
Yeah.
We'd like to investigate. It doesn't cost anything to get quotes. So.
And I think actually, I don't quote me on this, but might be able to contact the daycare department with the state. They're coming out of Missoula, and they'll come and they'll look at your space and they'll tell you what they think you would need. We did that once when I was daycare directing, and they came and looked at our space and said, "No, this is not gonna fly." It was in the bottom of an office. I knew it wasn't gonna fly. But we have a play structure that's half of the battle. They have a kitchen.
And I feel like
they have a bathroom. The place that we were looking at, like when I did it, they didn't even have a bathroom.
It's got to be almost there since the Boys and Girls Club had it workable. It can't be too far away.
So
And it's nice that it's a Quonset hut that could be expanded if we needed additional space to enclose it with the bathroom, so you didn't have to leave the space to get to the bathrooms right around the corner, but we could pop that wall for that one side to get the bathroom. This is basically just giving us the opportunity to look into it.
Yeah,
We wouldn't make any,
we need your blessing.
before we roll,
We won't knock down a wall.
let's see if it's even a possibility. It's
Yeah.
something I know we've wanted for
Yeah,
a long time, but have never been able to.
It reduces turnover in staff. I think that's just
The old yellow house was an idea at one time to be a daycare over there, but glad we didn't put kids out there. Just Adam and Racina.
Yeah. Neil.
I'll make the motion to approve an independent daycare entity to offer services here at the school to reduce the cost of daycare for staff and potential students.
I'll second.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? All those in favor? Ladies, good luck.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Start your RFP process.
It's almost like a.
I would probably make sure the facility works first.
I don't understand it. You guys, next time, will you guys do the intent to levy for
Yeah.
me too? Because that went really well.
Shark. Felt very Shark Tankish.
Yeah. All right, move on to 10.04 coaching recommendations. Volunteer high school baseball, Dan McClure.
Just volunteer.
Just volunteer.
Yeah, I'd make a motion recommending hiring as per administrative team and extracurricular committee. They volunteer for high school baseball down there.
I'll second that.
Okay, been moved and seconded. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Moves us on to 10.05 board policy.
All right, so we've got one old policy converted to new policy. Open it up. So out of district students, so this is all with the tuition fund change. It used to be an application. Now we're gonna cut off the date that we will accept out of district students. We're gonna make a cutoff date of June 1st, but no students will be accepted for out of district after September 1st. So we will not be accepting students after that. If we accept those students, any students, we just want to remain consistent with from Arley to Polson. We've all agreed to make a cutoff date of September 1st and no more moving after that, which is a change for a lot of, if they're homeless, obviously we'll be able to accept students from another school district, but if they don't like one school and want to go to another school and then return to, the movement will be
for the whole
reduced.
year, is that?
Yeah.
Was there ever any discussion about
This is-
semester allowing them?
No, and that, no, we just said the hard date and, so for example, special ed students, some of the costs involved with those students, those one-on-one type situations. And what we know is going to happen are those very difficult situations are going to be pushed to other school districts. And we want to be able to say no. And if we say no, we have to say no to all students. So it is, it's gonna change how we do business. But this is all part of the tuitioning and acknowledging, and we have to charge now the districts from wherever they're coming from. And so, yeah.
Did this come from COLA?
Yeah.
So these are for the next year.
Next year,
right?
Yeah.
Like these are going to the board for the next year from our legal counsel.
Yeah, and these will go in, these have to go in fairly soon because we have to let folks know that there isn't going to be a after June, July, August. We want to be able to let folks know early that this is new legislative policy that needs to change. So the other one is deleted policy 3141, where again, attendance policy for out of district. We used to, if they were in good standing with grades, attendance, behaviors, we would accept students anytime. And that has changed to that policy is being completely deleted, and out of district students with extenuating circumstances, you have to take students now. So if special ed students coming into our district, we've set some caps on numbers for class load, so we can't exceed class sizes beyond what we could handle. But we also can't say no to special ed students. So any special ed student, if they apply prior to the cutoff date of September 1st, we have to accept those students, as well as any students that want to. There's really not a way to say no anymore. It's pretty much, other than class size, you have to accept district students.
If they applied before.
If they applied before September 1st. Yeah.
And that's valley-wide.
Yes.
It was decided that was the date.
Yeah. Yeah. Soups met and decided that would be the date that we would write into each of our policies to be approved by the board. They have to apply. We have 10 days to decide, from June, July, from now, well, pretty much from now until September 1st. We'll be taking applications for students for next year.
So what you're saying is out of district kids don't have to be approved by the principals and approved by us?
No.
No matter what their standing is.
Right. And I don't like it, but that's another thank you from the legislation session of what it is, the world we live in.
Close the transfer portal for those kids that wanted to just go transfer and then get their 90 days and do the sport they wanted to do and don't care if they missed the one sport, whatnot.
Yeah, it will clean up a lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, they won't be able to bounce. But we pretty much kind of had that handled, because they had to be in good standing behavioral, attendance, they were behavioral issues, or, so they weren't able, everybody kind of kept it pretty tight in terms there, but the bouncing around will definitely not happen like it has in the past, and they'll have to choose early where they want to go to school the following year.
The two Eagle superintendents in on the county meeting, or that's separate, totally separate?
Totally separate. They'll be the only school that will accept year round. If someone wants to leave here, go to 2 Eagle, they could do that. we don't have any jurisdiction or legislation to cover that. So they don't follow any of it. So they could still go to Two Eagle. Or come, well, they
They
wouldn't
can't
come from Two Eagle, they could go to Two Eagle.
And our class sizes are dictated by capacity of teachers and
Yeah,
facilities.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's one
I'm just
reason we
trying to
could say
think of
no.
how, because every year we approve out of district and we make sure that we have, depending on where level they're at, either it's elementary or grade or high school, middle school, if it's, if capacity can fit that or take. it.
Yeah.
So that's the only thing I'm worried about is not having that control realistically of accepting at a district student. So as long as, I like that there's capacity built into it, so we're not getting overloaded in a certain area.
Yeah.
So that limits their options as expulsion?
Yeah, if they get expelled from a district, there might be, there still may be, yeah, well, you could still say no. What happens with expulsions in the old process is you would say no to an out-of-district student if they'd been expelled. Now they've been expelled, they'll either have to do private schools or they could apply to our district when it's open to transfer as an out-of-district. We would get those records, and depending on what the expulsion was for, bring them to the board and expel them here for whatever they were expelled for there. If it's a safety issue for our students, staff, etc. So it would open it up, but it doesn't mean that we have to accept them. We could accept them and then expel them as they were.
That's our
from
only
another
option.
Well, yeah, and their only option is private or Two Eagle then at that point. So Two Eagle knows that.
So Two Eagles tightened up on what they'll accept.
Yeah, that's what I'm wanting. They know that because they're gonna get, that's their only kid's option now is Two Eagle.
After September 1st.
Yeah.
But on this action item, we're recommending the revision. It's not really a recommend. This is handed down by the state.
Yeah, this is.
We have to approve it no
It's
matter
national.
what.
We have a
right?
voice,
Yeah,
we don't.
Yeah,
we have, exactly. We have a voice.
and there's a whole lot of cleanup. I mean, we did what, 15, 16 policy changes last year?
Yeah.
There's a lot of these policies that we're like, okay, you're gonna do this, but the written how you're gonna do this it's taken them that long from the last session for via Montana School Board Association to get to where they can give us guidance in the policy. So they'll be trickling out. We still have at least 2 more legislative policies that we're waiting on that will also be rolling out shortly, but we've been just patiently waiting for guidance and model policies. A lot of schools do MTSBA policy. We do Colorado law policy. So we've been waiting on BIA, but they all came out at the same time. So
They're probably pretty similar.
yeah, they're coded differently, but very much the same model policies.
I'll entertain a motion.
Make the motion to recommend the revision of board policy 7008 and deletion of old policy 3141 and replace with new policy 3141.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor? Okay, moved on to 10.06 employment for substitute teachers.
So 3 new substitute teachers added to the list: Ken Lamon, Sarah Tamman, and Natalie Helzer.
I make the motion to recommend hiring a substitute teacher. Ken Quinn, Sarah Tam, and Natalie Helson.
I'll second.
And moving second, any discussion? Just all background check like usual. I
Okay.
mean, that's
Yes.
same routine we've always done.
Same
Okay.
routine as always.
Okay, all those in favor? All right, moves on to 10.07 prom.
Prom plan, Rugged Horizons, again, off school grounds, which has been traditional for the last 8 years. 10 years possibly. But yeah, we'll be off school grounds. Recommendation is to have it at Rugged Horizon, which it's been, I believe, for the last 3 years.
And it's only $100 plus the non-refundable or the
Right, it's
refundable. So
So if anyone ever asks in the community why we're not renting a tent for the gym, because that's a common question from people who've been around a long time, it would cost way more than these people that are basically donating a really beautiful space to our students year after year. As long as we take care of it.
Yeah, I agree. It's good. That's good.
And I know in 25 years, and as a principal teacher, 30 years, we've never had a problem at any prom other than not having music one year. So, and we got a DJ from across the street before the prom started. So there's never been a prom.
DJ mixed.
Mixed Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, write that stuff.
We have a class act prom every year.
I'll make the motion to recommend approving prom plan for April 20th at Rugged Horizons.
I'll second that.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, that ends new business and moves us on to reports, starting with enrollment. Summary.
Enrollment again, just, we're down 20, -20 from last year, -40 from 2 years ago. So enrollment, we've been able to run the 5-year averages, keeping us afloat, but enrollment is down.
And we're looking at 149 in the high school next year.
No.
That's what it says, projected high school numbers.
Let me get back up there.
129.
129, where we're at right now.
Oh, just right over the title 6 count, it says projected high school numbers for next year, 149. I was just trying to figure out where those numbers were at up here.
All the way
Where are
down.
you?
oh, on the bottom.
All the way
Very
at the
bottom of
bottom. of the list.
Oh,
Projected.
no, yeah,
That was in
that was
2018.
2018, 2019.
No, what are these? Junior class is 29, I think, and then the 8th grade class is,
Well, no, I
28
saw
or
that up top,
29
and then at
coming
the
in.
bottom, I didn't
So
know
they
what
didn't
that.
even out.
and there's a few that are possibly leaving on top of that. So, or that left before count or after count date. So yeah, it's those two classes bookend the high school.
Thank you. All right, and then we'll move on to reports. Michelle, do you have anything to add?
No, you guys, I went to the Health Insurance Summit and was gonna give you just a real quick update. That was, right after the last board meeting. It was great. It was very well attended. Had people from all over the state, who, I went in and asked, are there detractors here? And at first they said yes, but in the end, I don't think there were any detractors in the room who didn't want to work toward a school employee insurance pool. Makes a lot of sense. We had legislators there. We had people from Jim Forte's office. It was a big deal. And so now there's a small group of all the interested parties, 2 from each kind of organization that's involved, that are going to be setting up the board and figuring out. So I'm really optimistic that it will happen. It has to happen by the end of 2026. per what was passed as the bill. They may end up going to the legislature and slightly amending the bill. There were some questions about the numbers that the bill, that group might, but it definitely, I do not see it getting set up for this coming school year, but I would be really optimistic that we would make something happen for the following school year. So we'll move ahead with insurance as is for the coming school year and really be hopeful, I think, after that summit that we have people across the state who want to make this happen.
Thank you for going.
Yeah, it was great.
Because once they get the numbers, then they'll put it out to the carriers, and then the carriers will offer their.
Yeah, so I think that eventually they'll ask the carriers for, there are lots of different ways to look at it. And there are a lot of different ways that one of the ideas is start by everyone keeping their own plans and it being a huge risk pool for those plans. And then moving into then asking for bids for plans. So we'll see what actually comes out of the smaller group. And we are set up to, receive periodic notifications of how everything's going. But there's a high level of interest across the state. It's something very uniting across, all sorts of different areas that might be divisive or groups that might not always get along. It seemed to be something that could really bring us together and make it happen.
Yeah, good.
So that's all other than, what else is on here? If you have any questions for me. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you. Good news. Okay, let's see. Mr. Nesper. Here it comes.
Good evening, everybody. Real quick through the regular report. Quick thank you to Jackie, Connie, Racina, Adam, helping me clean up a lot of Infinite Campus address data. That's been huge, still more to do, certainly, and continuing to standardize the way that we put stuff into Infinite Campus helps us out a ton for more and more and more stuff as we go through the year. It becomes more and more helpful. The Square Clock camera was installed and running. This is for the NFHS Pixelot camera. After the poor performance of the NFHS network over our district tournament here, I am in the beginning processes of looking and figuring out if there's any way we have any other options for broadcasting our home games, because that was bad. Yes.
Huddle, right?
Yep. We have Huddle.
Huddle fan, I think is what it's called.
Yep. And that is an option. I don't know, and I need to get with Stu on this, and maybe Adam, I don't know if you're involved in that at all, as to what the exclusive broadcast situation is that Pixelot and NFHS have with the school district or the MHSA in general. I don't know what that situation is, but I intend to find out. I just haven't gotten to that yet.
Well, it's MHSA that controls live streaming, so they'd have to approve Huddle or whatever.
Yep.
Whatever. I don't know if they do
make
an actual sole school district, like, hey, yeah, you do your thing. And
yep.
But
I know MHSA does exert some broadcast rights control over MHSA activities. So that I anticipate being the biggest hurdle for Huddle, or putting a few cameras into the gym and broadcasting our own, or whatever the solution is there. But I am and will be actively looking into other
Oh, Andrew, we might have a bunch of GoPros.
You ain't wrong. So yeah, looking into that. Let's see. Nothing else major there. The new copiers were due to be in this week. They missed a transfer in Utah.
Good start, huh?
Great. We're really cruising on those things. Kurt emailed me toward the end of the day saying that he could hustle and get them here on Friday. I emailed him back at the end of the day and said, we're not even in school on Friday. Don't get out of bed early for it. But if they're here, I'll make sure somebody unlocks the door for you, because I won't be.
So is this a new contract then?
Yeah. And I can let Adam talk about that a little bit, but they did.
Yeah,
we did or not.
So we signed new contract for 2 big machines. They're giving us 6 months, 0 payment. 3 months of rebate, and then he's cutting me a check for the remainder of what we owe on the lease for the 2 big machines, making them a net 0. But we will have to house the machines for the rest of the year until the remainder of the contract's over. So they made it work out financially, but we have 4 machines instead of 2.
2 of which we just have to.
2 of which we'll just be paying. We'll still be paying the Xerox lease, but we won't be paying the lease amount for the Ricoh machines. We will be paying the print per print for the Ricoh machines, but we won't be printing on the Xerox machines, so we won't be paying the per print for those. So it all.
So that'll just sit.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You mean the
So I could put it in the freaking kiln when we're done. So yeah, Adam and Kurt went back and forth on that. Kurt sharpened up his pencil real good and gave us a really good deal, so we don't end up paying any more money and we get printers at work. So I think it worked great.
But are late.
What's that?
But they're late.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean,
I would say
I'm rooting
if you
for
can get
them.
them here Friday, don't worry about not getting them out of bed.
Yeah. That's yeah.
I'm rooting for them, man.
Okay.
Because, yeah.
Cool. Other stuff. I got a real persistent salesman on me about looking about what happens when our smart boards reach end of life. I'm pushing them down the road quite a bit because I don't want to think about that just yet because those are expensive. But there are other options that might work a little better for us. I'm not trying to kick any of them out the door, but when they do start dying in the next 5-10 years, who knows? Looking at options for what to do in after that. Staff machines. Chantel has bought another one on her budget, and we are covered for staff right now, but we don't have any spares, which is not a great position to be in, but it's not the end of the world. At least everybody's got a machine they can work on. Other staff infrastructure, the next ones up are for the kitchen and cafeteria. Those are sort of our oldest sort of operating machines in the district, and they're starting to show their age a little bit. So that's the next thing on the cutting block for new hardware for staff. Moving on to the district, unless anybody has any questions on that before we move on. Cool. District technology goals. I'll let you guys read through the sort of first page there. The biggest thing here is that I tried to build these goals based on some kind of data. So I sent out a survey to the staff a couple of weeks ago and have been doing some monitoring in some of the various platforms that we use. Right now, the biggest goals that we have that I have identified are improving and stabilizing our Wi-Fi coverage in the whole district. Part of that involves something I talked a little bit about when I got hired 2 years ago, was our wiring infrastructure, particularly in the elementary and middle school. It's old and doesn't carry the ability to do much in terms of upgrading without doing some wiring work over there, which I'm happy to do. So really, we just gotta buy some wire and some accessories for that sort of thing. And like I said, I didn't do any official cost calculating on these projects for this. I will be doing that in the future, figuring out exactly what that's going to cost. But that will be forthcoming. Secondary goals then are server and virtualization hardware. Not a huge project, essentially just putting another piece in the network closet that can house a couple of services, Wi-Fi authentication. With the new printers, we have the ability to do some centralized print management, which could be very helpful, especially as we look at reducing paper usage. And then some virtual consoles for things like security cameras, HVAC controls, Black Mountain, things that don't always play well with updated hardware and software. So it would be nice to be able to maintain an old Windows 7 or a Windows XP machine that the HVAC controls can run on, because they don't like Windows 11 and nobody wants to update them and stuff like that. The sort of tertiary goals, I guess, then are the rest of them. We have implemented some newer security protocols for our email coming out of our domain, which is really great, but is difficult to get any aggregated reporting out of for free. I've done a couple of free trials on some things, basically gathering all of the emails that get sent out of the district and reporting back to me how many of these actually came from the district, how many came from spoofed email accounts, how many came from people that were pretending to be us, things like that. It's not a huge priority for us from a security standpoint right now, but it's something that I'm keeping my eye on, and we'll know more about moving forward. Consolidating platforms for instructors and administrators, and then developing documentation for repeated technology tests. This is one of my big goals. It doesn't cost the district anything. It's just a matter of taking everything that Matt, over his illustrious career, just remembered to do every year and when to do it all the time, and just putting it on paper digitally, I guess. So I have a calendar of things to do. So if I get hit by a bus tomorrow, Jeff can step in and take care of us. Those are my goals.
Yeah.
And I'd be happy to take any questions or comments if you have.
Thank you.
All right.
And that does mean, I mean, on the annual calendar this month, we sometimes put it in presentation. Was here instead of for our plan. Yeah. Thank you.
AD, Mr. Grant back there.
Don't believe that he stayed.
Read that, and we will move on to elementary. Miss Moore.
Enrollment sitting at 214. Our attendance was down to 89% this month. We got hit with the bug really, really bad, but we are still over 90% for overall. So that's really, really good. I'm going to highlight some of the things that we did this month and some of the upcoming things, and just to be conscious of time, if that's all right with you. Okay, and then you can look at the rest that's on there. So we just celebrated the 100th day of school. The students were really excited. It's really, really great. We do it every year, and it's a lot of fun. Bingo for Books is next Tuesday. It's one of our biggest events of the year. Really, really exciting. So come if you can. And then on February 28th, we're going to have dental screening, sealants, and fluoride. And we've had permission slips sent out to the kiddos for those about a month and a half now. And so that should be really great. We've got a lot back. And Tribal Health is coming in to do that. Next Friday will be our reading reward assembly for Pie in the Face. Thank you, Mr. Sargent. Thank you, Mr. Evans, for taking one for the team after being called out on Facebook. The students are really excited about seeing you guys get pied in the face. I think they're definitely going to meet their goal. I checked today and they were like at 1,600 books and they still have a week and a half left. So the kids have been working really hard. They're really excited. Third and fourth grade are going to visit a career fair up at SKC in March. They're really excited about that. I think it's a great way to get them going and thinking about that. And then everyone's getting ready for a showcase and our community night on March 21st. And then our kindergarten and mission early literacy program, which was formerly our TKO, is coming up on March 26th. So those are our most important events coming up. And other than that, if that's all right with you, I'll let you review the rest of my report with the pictures. Do you have any questions?
Can we buy a pie?
Hey, all that means is we're on the stage next year. That's what I said. That's
You can definitely donate a pie if you would like. You don't have to pay for it. Well, you have to go buy it. Yeah, you can bring it. If you want to, yeah. Do you want to throw a pie? You can throw a pie. You can do whatever you want. It's for the kids. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just show up with however much you want. We'll put it on the table.
It is a very fun event, I will tell you.
It is a
I
lot
got
of
to
fun.
witness it last year, so.
We're gonna try to live stream. I know how to live. I'm all hooked up on the Facebook now, so we're gonna live stream the whole thing. but it's way better live if you come.
Oh, yeah.
The kids, they go nuts. It's great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. On the high school, Mr. Hendrickson. Patiently waiting there in the back.
Got stiffs sitting around. Yeah, you can see those numbers. Attendance continues to be a focus and issue here. Moved up a little bit in the discipline world in middle school. There you can see the jump from January to February. That's pretty normal. The stretch from Christmas break to spring break always gets long, and right in the middle of that is where things ramp up, and it hasn't changed this year. Most of you knew we hosted district basketball last week. Took a village to make that happen, for sure. A ton of people just helped out in any way, shape, form to have that go off. We got asked by several different schools, refs, coaches, if we would be interested in trying to run it back and host it again next year. So also our setup was pretty ideal for our district tournament. Having 2 gyms in one location. So huge thanks to everybody that made that happen, which was a ton of people. Spring sports coming up next month. Get calendar committee tomorrow. PLC's been working, been meeting in the library the last month, basically in the mornings as a whole kind of school, going through and talking about teaching and learning, and student achievement, and grading processes and all that stuff. So that's been good. Middle school academic bowl finale tomorrow in Ronan. Girls basketball just finished up in the middle school. The 8th graders took the NAEP. That's the nation's report card when you see the United States compared to other countries. That's what they do it on. 4th grade and 8th grade. So in case you ever knew that, huge thanks to Mr. Martin. He's the one that planned, scheduled, worked with them, brought them in. It's a lot of work for a morning of testing. And people come in and administer that. So there's way too much correspondence that goes on to make that happen.
Do we get those results? No.
It goes into the report card. Like we get a school report card.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah. Your kid won't see anything.
no,
You won't even know actually how that was like. So
I forgot it.
oops, I don't know why that's on there. Yeah, that's it. Questions?
The middle school trend of behavior is continually going up there.
Yeah.
Do we have a remedy or plan or solution?
For that, well, that's normal. That's a trend every year.
Well, if it's a trend every year, how do we decrease that trend?
You guys up for some expulsion hearings? I'm just saying that half joking, but half serious.
I know.
No, and
But
we don't want to do that. We have, there are a small number who make up the large number of discipline referrals. So what that looks like is interventions, team meetings, middle school team. We actually have stuff set up tomorrow, Monday, Tuesday. Pulling student, guardian, parent, team in and really discussing what these behaviors look like, what our expectations are moving forward. how kids can improve. Putting in not just hey, this is what's going to happen if you do this again. Also, hey, we want you to be here to be successful. So you have to put in a positive side to that too, like goals out front to decrease the sort of clamping down on kids, because we have had to do that. We've had to, kids losing privileges and then trying to earn them back. And so we've gone heavy-handed in that way. Students, those kids have mentors in the building, so people that they need to talk to. The handful that have contributed to a lot of this have basically a check and connect, which is a system where students come in, they check in with a designated adult in the building. Hey, that person, I'm one of those for one of the kids. That person goes, hey, how's it going? How's last night? How you doing today? Get breakfast? Yeah. Okay, what are our goals for today? What are we hoping to do? We have goals, set those every day. Kind of set them, try and send them with the most positive message into the day, and hopefully move them forward where they can work their way off of having this heavy-handedness. And so that's been about a 2-month process there, working with families and stuff. So it's this year's been a little bit tougher with the select few. So we've had to sort of come up with new things on how to hopefully help and encourage those kids. So yeah, for sure. Good question. Yeah, and the definite goal there is to avoid any kind of expulsion, right? Nobody wants to go there. Nobody wants to. That's just a lose-lose situation all the way around. So continuing to try and work with kids to.
It's just a trend that sticks out for sure. As long as we're progressively trying to do something or new tactics, or I don't know if it's the disciplinary action that we're taking needs to be also changed or looked at, or additional staff or time. I don't know, but I think it's definitely a trend that sticks out on that paper.
Yeah, and that's cumulative for the year, right? Just so you.
Yeah, it's not per month.
Yeah, that's not per month.
Yeah.
We didn't have 132 in February. That's just total for the year.
But I mean, looking at the bottom, right? I mean, the previous years,
yeah,
we're on pace to definitely beat last year.
Yeah.
And the year before that. And,
yeah. It has. It's been a trend since COVID, right? We've seen everything change exponentially, unfortunately. But yeah, I think, and we're actually sending with Tribal Ed, through Tribal Ed and the Character Strong, which is a advisory program, social emotional learning, SEL stuff that we use. There's 2 or 3 in the elementary, and then 4 staff members in the high school, and myself going to training actually 1 week and a half. And that's tier 2 behavior and academics. So basically, how we work that in our system is any student with 3 to 6 office disciplinary referrals. In that range, that's what we consider tier 2. So we have like a menu of things on how to respond to behaviors and then how to respond to academic kind of tier 2 stuff too. So there's always room to improve, but that's where we've unfortunately been dealing with tier 3 now, which is anybody over 6, like 6 to wherever. major office disciplinary fills.
Good.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. To district. So, sir.
Let's make a quick review. Got the plan, start transitioning the gym, open enrollment bill we did this month, new early literacy plan, changing our TKO to early literacy, copy machines. Hope you'll be here this month. We are done with the CRDC. We just need to get it submitted, and their site wouldn't accept anything today, so hopefully tomorrow. Safety committee met. They had some great ideas, but kind of like the extracurricular, co-curricular, the policy, the handbook needs to change. I'm working on getting the crisis manual updated and implemented this year for next year. Kevin Kennelty and Levi Reed. Kevin Kennelty is a principal in Ronan. Levi Reed is an SRO, works for the Sheriff's Department. They are starting a consulting business on school safety, and they've offered us free consultation for their new business, school safety procedures, protocols. So we'll be working with them to go through our policy, procedures, and safety. So everybody knows we are working on that, but it's going to take a little time to get. We had a very extremely thick policy and procedures. We're hopefully going to funnel that down and then get those two guys in to help go through making sure our facilities are safe. Financial literacy, we got the recording, both audio, we got that going for board meetings. National conference, I'll get everybody a synopsis by next month of how the conference went at the AASA national conference. Was outstanding, learned a lot. Solution Tree and Keith Hoyer Consulting will be here March 22nd. We've already hired them. They'll cover PLC, academic achievement with instructional strategies from Solution Tree. Keith Hoyer will be working with the principals on their priorities for RTI, MTSS, behavior, and academic interventions. For RTI, daycare was covered this month. And we're the MQEC, which I'm also a board member of, we're going to challenge the community choice charter school, giving parents of special ed students the opportunity to homeschool and be paid for it. I see that as a complete, what do I say, disaster, politely, complete disaster. Yes, for any parents homeschooling their special ed students for financial gain, and that's one that on a moral compass, that is so wrong.
If that's the sole reason.
Yeah. So, yeah. And that's all I have. I kept it very short.
Quality Schools grant, Mr. Marchand, that was the one that we got for the high school. And they used to funnel all that money into that. And then now they ask us to front it. So that came to me in the middle of our reports. Anybody else?
I got one more question and I'll shut up for the night. Sorry. I had received some comments and questions on the location of the travel flags in the new gym.
They need to be flipped.
If they could be, not necessarily, if they could be placed in a different location. I know we don't want to put more holes in anything, but I haven't received any positive feedback, we'll say that, on their current location of where they're placed at in the gym. It just doesn't seem fitting, you know what I mean? They seem like they're tucked in a corner type situation. I'd just like to explore a new location for them to be hung up.
You can do that. And I think that there was a suggestion too to have the state flag and
the order of flags.
Yeah,
there's a certain order they're supposed to be in too. Yeah.
You're talking about
I'm talking about the tribal flags that were put up in the corner right above the entrance. if they could be flopped possibly to the same wall, kitty corner of where the CSKT, USA, and state flag are, along that southern wall to the west would be a good location, is where everyone kept saying is. They would look better over there.
We did approve that as a board, so I think we probably stop in, see me, let's, I think.
I
just
know
to-
we approved it, I just,
Let's,
when we approved
it's
it,
close-
putting there, it's just, yeah, it just.
if it's close to where we planned it, if it's a big move, let's get it approved with everybody, but I think if it's a small move, yes. Stop in, let me know what you're thinking. Okay.
I didn't realize what they were looking.
Yeah, when we
So,
approved
that was the
it,
biggest
we
thing.
approved it,
Makes
yeah,
sense.
let's put flags up, yeah, on that wall, yeah, sure, that's fine, but just now that you actually see them, it's just like, they're kind of tucked away in the corner, pretty far away, or it's a different look, I think, and a lot of people are like, well, why are they over there?
If you all give me the nod, I'll just do it.
Huh?
The reason they got put in that spot is because it's used for PE in there. And they've already had damage to the other flags. And so, we're like, well, we can't put them over there on that wall because half of the stuff, basketballs, kickball, all that stuff goes in that direction or that. They don't play back towards the main scoreboard, right? They use that with the
Yeah,
smaller one over there so that doesn't do any damage on that. So when we walked through and did all that, we're like, all right, we gotta put them out of the way so they don't get destroyed. That's how that spot came to be.
It's a good reason. So at least now I have a response.
Yeah, we can walk it.
Anything else? You got anything else, Mr. Sergeant?
Nope.
Okay. In adjourn. 9:07.
9:07, I got it. You do with them what you want. Okay. I'm looking at MCA right now. Questions that arose in my mind.
Feel better, JP.
Yeah, you're pretty stuffy.
Sorry, but you still awake.